BRUCAST is back, baby.
This BRUCAST episode is brought to you by the BRUCAST Store. Explore a store filled with awesome goodies from hoodies to t-shirts to mugs. We've got you covered. Stay in style with BRUCAST. Embrace the shock, set the trend. Visit now brew-cast.com/store. Link below.
Back with the fire, can't you see the flames? From Deutschland's depths comes the BRUCAST name. Voices like thunder breaking all the chains. Unleash the fury like a runaway train.
Alright, hi everyone, welcome back to another BRUCAST episode. If it's your first time watching the show, make sure to like and subscribe. If you're listening to Spotify or Apple Podcasts, please rate the show 5 stars. This will ensure that the podcast recommends to even more people and allow me to keep doing what I love. BRUCAST also on Instagram, X, and TikTok, where I upload shorts with the highlights of the show. So follow now, BRUCAST on Instagram, X, and TikTok. Links in the description below.
Here we thrive, we survive!
Alright, hey there BRUCAST fans, welcome back to another BRUCAST episode. If you haven't subscribed yet, make sure to comment, like, and subscribe. By doing all of those things, you're gonna be then running to win our awesome giveaway that's gonna happen at the end of this month. So if you're listening on the future, you probably miss it. We're going to do the giveaway at the end of this month, September 2025. So if you comment, like, and subscribe, one of you, my lucky subscribers is going to win either a cap, a mug, something from the BRUCAST store. Is a surprise. And very important, it's a worldwide giveaway. So no matter where you're in the world, we're going to make sure to deliver this prize to you. So yeah. That's about it. Comment, like, subscribe, and good luck. Our guest today is Teri M. Brown. How are you doing, Teri?
I'm doing wonderful. Thank you so much for having me here today.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Teri. I was looking forward to this podcast with you because as we talked before really starting the podcast, you're an extremely interesting guest.
Well, thank you.
And I mean it. I mean, what really caught my attention is that you and your husband one day just decided to get in a tandem bike and cross the U.S.
Yeah, it's crazy. 3,102 miles of togetherness.
I don't know how much that is in kilometers. I'm going to calculate. How much?
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't know either.
Could you repeat the miles?
Yeah, 3,102.
3,102. Let's see. Miles to kilometers.
I'm going to say it's probably about 5,000.
Oh my God. You're absolutely right. So, could you tell us a little bit more about it?
Yeah, so this whole journey, this idea came about because I had been wanting to do something big and bold. I had gotten out of a really bad relationship. I'd spent 14 years in an abusive relationship, and I was now out of it, but felt like I didn't have anywhere else to go or anything else to be. I kind of felt like my life was over, and I didn't know how to change that. So I wanted to do something big and bold. I met Bruce, who became my husband, and he had always wanted to ride across the United States on a bicycle. And I thought, that's big and bold. And it was even bigger and bolder for me because I'm not a cyclist. And at the point I met Bruce in 2018, I had not been on a bicycle in 40 years. Ooh. So this was a really big deal for me. Bruce, however, is a cycling fanatic, and he's really good, and he's got lots of experience. And we realized very quickly there was no amount of practice, no amount of training that was going to catch me up to where he was. And so it was going to be a very difficult thing to do on a bicycle, each of us with our own. So we decided to go tandem because that means he can't go faster than me and I can't go slower than him. We have to find a way to work together to make it across the United States. And so that's what we did. We did some training for a little over a year. and almost didn't get to go because we were planning to leave in May of 2020. And that's when COVID was big and strong and people weren't doing anything. We finally did leave at the end of June 2020. So we did ride during COVID. But we spent 72 riding days and 3.5 months riding across the United States until we landed in Washington, D.C. and finished up the ride.
Hell yeah, what an adventure. I love it.
Yes.
I love it. So just to be clear, it's just you did not do the way back. You just went there and then
right. We flew to Oregon, which is on the West Coast. We live on the East Coast, and we started on the Pacific Coast in Astoria. And we rode the whole way across the United States, mostly along the upper edge, almost at the Canadian border, pretty much the whole way across until we got to Pittsburgh. And then we went down toward DC and we stopped in DC.
Oh, it's amazing. Was there any preparation before the travel, or you guys just tomorrow?
No. Lots of preparation. I think my husband probably could have just made the decision to go. And he could have gone, mostly because he's been preparing for this his whole life. He wanted to go since 1976, and it's something that he saw a group of college kids do. He's very athletic. He's very strong. He's very in shape. He loves cycling. He does it all the time. I think that he could have made sure he had all of his equipment and gone. I hadn't been on a bicycle in 40 years. I had a lot that I had to relearn. I had gear I had to figure out. I had to find a saddle that I would be able to sit on for 3,102 miles. I mean, I don't know if you think about a bicycle seat and just imagine sitting on it for 3.5 months. You have to make sure that what you have fits you correctly. And not every seat fits every person correctly. And I had to find the right clothing that was going to work for me, that was going to shield me from the sun when I needed it, that wasn't going to be too hot when I didn't need the protection, all of those things, right? So yeah, we did a training for about a year. We made the decision, and then we started doing training. However, we live on the coast of North Carolina, and the coast of North Carolina is exceptionally flat. And on day one, we went over a mountain range in Oregon. And so on day one, I thought, we've bitten off more than we can chew. How am I going to do this, right? Despite all of the training that we did, I don't think there's enough training in the world to make you understand what you're getting yourself into until you're actually doing it.
Isn't that what they say about parenthood?
I think so. Yeah, it's the same thing. It's the same thing, marriage, parenthood, anything. And I think it just boils down to, that's to me, the pure definition of it, an adventure, is it's something that if you actually knew all of the details, you'd talk yourself out of and never go.
Yeah. Yeah, because you remove a little bit of the excitement out of it. Yeah.
Well, and if you knew everything, you'd doubt yourself, and you'd start saying, I don't think I can do that, or I don't think I want to do that. That sounds too hard. So instead, there's this, we're going to do this thing, and it seems really exciting and really cool, and it is all of those things, and it's also really hard. And there are days where you doubt your sanity, like what made me decide I was going to ride across the United States on a bicycle, But in the end, it's been an amazing thing in my life. It literally changed everything about me.
But I'm going to be honest, before we touch on that, because I want to know what changed, of course. But what a better way to get over a marriage than going and traveling across the country for a new husband.
Yeah. Well, and I think too that, when you're doing something like I was doing, which wasn't just traveling. We didn't just hop in a car and go somewhere. It was me going way outside of my comfort zone.
Okay.
And I had been in this really awful marriage and didn't believe in myself anymore. Well, when you go and do something way outside of your comfort zone, eventually you're going to have to figure out, hey, yes, I can. Look at me. I can do it. And as you do that, like, you can start healing from all of the yuck that you've been through. And that's one of the biggest things that happened for me, is that I started out the trip very afraid, very sure that I didn't have much worth, not sure that I was capable of much of anything. And when I finished the ride, I knew I was a capable person, and I knew that I was strong, and I no longer believed all of the things that I had been told in the bad marriage. And I have found the place to put all of that junk. You know, we often have junk that's like floating around in our heads, and I was able to kind of sort it, put it in the right box and shove it away. And it doesn't bother me much anymore. Every now and then it comes out and I take a look at it, but it's not daily in my face concerns anymore because I know who the me is.
I see. Was that idea conscious or unconscious to go into this adventure to prove to yourself that you're capable of doing it?
I thought I was proving it to other people.
Oh.
I thought other people didn't believe in me anymore. And that wasn't the truth. I don't think there was anyone who didn't believe in me. It was me, but I couldn't see that. So somewhere along the way, I recognized that this was my own limiting self-beliefs. And I don't think that I purposefully was getting rid of them, but you can't help but notice, you know, you hear the words in your head, I can't do that. You're not capable. You hear those words, and then you see yourself riding mile 2000 and some, and you say, wait a minute, an incapable person couldn't do this, and I'm doing it. Therefore, that must not be a real thing. And then you found, I would find ways to say, okay, well, that truth is not really truth. So I can throw it away. And I did that all across the United States, where I just started throwing away these pieces that I realized were not true. They were just things that had been said, but they weren't true.
So there was a whole psychological element to this trip. Like, yeah, that's amazing.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
When I was younger, when I was a teenager, someone once told me that they used to go to parties. It was a girl at school. She said she would go to parties and just feel super shy about people judging her clothes. And a colleague who was sitting next to her said, no. You are just worried that people will be judging your clothes because you are judging everyone else's clothes. And I was like, oh my God, what are they talking about? But it kind of clicked for me, you know, somehow the view that's was my conclusion at the time. And I would say you agree with it. Like, your view of the world is sometimes, I mean, most of the times, the view that you have about yourself.
Right. And so I had this feeling that people thought I was done and washed up. And the truth is I thought that I was done and washed up. The world really didn't hold that. Maybe there are a few people out there that did, but generally speaking, nobody was saying, oh, look at poor Teri, who's all washed up and never going to be anything and never going to do anything again. That was all me. And I needed to realize that. And then I needed to get rid of it, because that's just a bunch of crap that was thrown on me in a bad relationship. And across the country, I shed it. I hope nobody else finds it laying out there on the road somewhere, that they just leave it where it belongs.
Oh man, so uplifting. I love it. We had a guest the other day. He had a similar solution for dealing with his problems. It was also traveling, but he would go to dark places. I think they call it dark tourism, right? I don't recall which places he went to, maybe North Korea, Hiroshima. And he said by 9/11, like where the...
Yeah.
And he said by going to those places, by doing this dark tourism, he realized that his problems, by being on those places and feeling that energy, he realized that his problems were not that big after all.
Right. You know, it's interesting. When we were on the ride, we were in Michigan, and we stopped at this restaurant, and it was a little, I don't know, they just served chicken and burgers. It wasn't a big deal, but it was really beautiful on the inside. And the man that ran it, he was always out, and he was talking to the people, and he was very positive and upbeat, and he was missing an arm. And we stayed in that location for 3 days because of bad weather. So we ate there several times, and we got to know him and talked to him. And turns out that he had originally been I think a welder or something like that. He was on the side of the road helping someone who had had a flat tire when a semi crashed into them, and he lost his arm. He said when he was now in the hospital and he was pitying himself and, my life is over, everything's over, he had a doctor that wheeled him down to the rehab room. And in this rehab room where he was doing, where he was, there was a large contingency of people who had come back from war. And they had missing limbs and other things. And he looked at the things that they had been through and realized that what he had been through was nothing, that he was missing an arm, but it was his left arm and he was right-handed, and that he still had both legs, and that he still had his mind, and that he still had all of these other things. And so he changed his outlook. So it's that same kind of idea where you get out there and you start seeing things and you realize, oh, wait a minute, I don't have it as bad as I thought.
Yeah, you change your perspective, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Did you came up with all of those insights just by yourself, or do you happen to talk with someone?
It's funny. I came up with them, but I didn't know I was doing it. I kept a blog the whole way across the United States. I wrote everything. Because I'm not a cyclist. When I would go and read blogs about people who had ridden across the United States on a bicycle, I felt like they weren't being very honest. It always felt like, look at me, I'm strong, I'm perfect, I made it to this date, I made it to this date. And they never really talked about the difficulties, the hard spots, the things that made you want to stand on the side of the road and cry. So I thought, I'm going to write a blog and I'm going to be brutally honest. I'm going to talk about my feelings. I'm going to talk about how difficult it is. I'm going to talk about when it's beautiful and wonderful, but I'm also going to talk about when it's hard and horrible, and I'm going to put it all down. And when we got back home, I was reading through my blog, trying to make sense of the fact that we had actually made it across the United States. I knew we had done it, but I couldn't believe we had done it. So I was reading through this blog and I thought, look at that. Look at what I learned here. Look at what I learned there. Look at what I learned here. Look at what I learned there. And so it was really crazy that as I started doing that, I said, wow, I now know these things that I either didn't know or had completely forgotten about life. And so that's where they came from. And then that's what I ended up putting in the book.
Amazing. I'm sharing your blog right now, or at least I'm trying to here on my software, but it's not working. Oh, there you go. Now it's showing.
Yeah, so I think that's the main page that shows 10 little rules for a double-butted adventure.
Oh, because you also made a book out of it.
Yeah. I did. Yeah. So those are the 10 rules that I learned about life while riding across the United States. And then if you wanted to see the whole blog, you would go up to the top of the website, and under the About Me section, there is something that says Team DBA, which stands for Double Butted Adventures. And if you click there, then you can go straight to the blog. I think there's a link there to the blog.
Oh, 1 second. Before I go to the blog, I want to, that's the tandem bike.
That's the tandem bicycle with the gear, but it's not showing you the trailer that's behind us. So we also have a trailer that pulls all of our camping gear. We looked like a small parade is what we looked like. So yeah.
I was so naive. I was like, oh my God, they survived only with those little yellow bags. No.
A little more than that.
Okay, let's open the blog. There we go.
Yeah. So the blog starts during some of the training. It goes all the way through nearly every day that we rode. And then the year after we got back, we rode the coast of Maine and did 300 miles on the coast of Maine. So about 500 kilometers on the coast of Maine. And so that's what you're seeing there are probably coast of Maine pictures and things that we did there. So I tried to really just write about what we saw, what we did. And when you get into the in 2020, if you were to look in the 2020 ones, that's when we were riding across the United States. And those are very very specific about things like what was the temperature like and what did we see that day and all of those kinds of things. So yeah. That's us right there.
Man, that's so sweet. That's so cool. I cannot imagine. So I think you mentioned already, but could you remind me how many months did it take?
So we were gone for 3.5 months.
Yeah.
It was 72 actual days of riding. But like
72.
I tell people, you have to take some rest days. Sometimes it's because exhaustion has gotten you and you need a few days. And sometimes the weather is too bad to continue going forward and you have to, hunker down and wait.
I know that for a fact that there's Route 66. I've never been there, but it's, as far as I know, you're gonna tell me it's like this long, really big long route in the middle of the desert, and there's nothing around. Did you guys happen to cross that road?
No, that was much further. If you look at the picture that you have up there, I think it's the yellow or the pink. Let me look here with my glasses. Kind of the pink line at the top is where we were. So we were really close to Canada for a good portion of the time. And so we were on what's called Route 2. We started in Astoria. We crossed over the Rocky Mountains in a place called Lolo Gap. Once we were in Montana, we headed north and got on Route 2. So we started off on the yellow line, ended up on the pink line, and then followed some more of the yellow line over there around Michigan, and then we made up our own route from that point.
Got it. What an adventure, guys! Go check it out. This is not this is not a paid sponsor, nothing like that. I'm just genuinely excited about it. So it's double, but it's
Double-butted adventures.
WordPress.
Yeah, at WordPress.com. Yeah.
There we go. Super cool.
Yeah. And like I said, if you don't want to find it there, just go to my name, TeriMBrown.com, and it's under the About Me section.
You know what is cool about it? Because let me say it again. What I think it's super cool about it also is that if you take other people who state are gonna cross the West, what they do, they buy a minivan and they build a luxurious hotel inside, and they have the satellite from Elon Musk connected to the thing, and they have AC, and they have the streaming gear all across, and life is perfect, and the family is perfect, and everything's amazing. But in reality, everyone's miserable, and it's all about the appearances, Right. There's so many of those stories out there. I know for a fact there's like family vans.
Yeah. And I think that going across the United States in a van would be cool as well. Like there's some things that we could have done that way that we couldn't do on a bicycle. When you're on a bicycle, you get from point A to point B for the day. And people would say, there's this really cool cave system about 6 miles from here. Well, 6 miles is 6 more miles, and then you have to ride back 6 miles. So that's adding an extra 12 miles to your day. So we really only saw things that were directly in our path. So going by a car means that you would get to see some of those other things we didn't get to see. On the other hand, we rode across the United States at an average of 10 miles an hour. And at 10 miles an hour, you get to see things you never see by van.
Like what?
The flowers that grow along the side of the road. There was a time it was so interesting. We were going up a hill, and we crossed over a stream that went under the road. And as we crossed across the stream, the temperature changed by about 5 degrees from the cold water. Well, you would never notice that in a van. I mean, you just fly right by it. You don't notice. You don't notice things like eagles' nests, ospreys' nests that are built. You don't notice how the moss we're always told that the moss grows on the north side of a tree. Well, that may be true, except in Oregon, where it's so wet that the moss grows anywhere it wants to. And you wouldn't see the moss growing literally over the entire tree. Those are the kinds of things you don't get to see when you're flying by in a car. So it was really interesting to see the world this way.
Amazing. It's crazy because a lot of members of my family, they do stuff like that. I'm the only one who does, but I admire. I'm going to share a few stories. My ex-stepdad, so the ex-husband of my mom, one day he got tired. That was, I don't know, 25 years ago, maybe he got tired of working in a bank. He got all the money he had made until that moment, gave all to his dad, and said, "Dad, this is all my money. Whenever I call you, just send it to me. Whenever, no matter where I am in the world, just find Western Union or something like that and wire me the money." And he just did that, bought a bike, and started pedaling, and started doing it. And he traveled the whole world for 2.5 years, something like that. He went everywhere. I was like, what? What are you talking about?
Right. And it is kind of crazy because when you do something big like that, you put your life on hold. But the other things that you would be doing, because when you're riding a bicycle, that's what you're doing. You're riding your bicycle. You're not taking care of your home. You're not doing those things. You're not visiting with relatives, and you're not answering your phone, and you're not cooking your dinners and doing laundry and running errands and going to play bridge with your friends. You're doing this event. And so you do kind of put everything. So your stepdad did, 2.5 years of kind of putting regular life on hold while he went out and did this amazing adventure.
Would you say that we all should do something like that in life?
I think that even if it's not something physical like this, that everyone should work to get outside that box that they've put themselves in. We very carefully create this safe little space that we can be in, where we know that we can be successful, and we know what's going to happen every day, and everything feels nice and calm and easy. And when you do that, you do not grow, you do not become, you do not learn, you don't ever experience real joy. You don't get to see what you're made of. And so, yeah, definitely step outside of that boundary, even if it's as small as, going on an unplanned vacation for a week. That's more than if you've never done that before. Like, just try stepping outside of the box. What way would you normally do it? Could you do it a different way? I once had a professor say that one of the best ways to keep your mind agile as you got older was to change up your routine often. So like if you always went to the grocery store a particular way, to go a different way. To just drive a different drive than you normally do, or to try something new, like, I think I'll try to learn to play the piano, or something outside of what you normally do, and that keeps our brains agile. But I also think it keeps our lives joyful, because you get stuck in the box, in that rut that you're in, and that's why people call them ruts.
Call them what?
They call it a rut, R-U-T, like what a wheel will make, the big imprint, and it just you get stuck in it, where you just feel like, oh, my world is just doing the same thing over and over and over and over. Well, it's because you've put yourself in a box where you do the same things over and over and over. Doing something like this took me so far outside of the box that I had put myself in that I haven't put myself back in a box yet. Like, I'm still experiencing all of the things in my world. And I love that. And I would love to see everybody experience it, at least to some degree, this ability to say, I'm going to stop doing what I've always done for a day, for 2 days, for 2 weeks, whatever it is, and jump outside and do something big and bold.
So in other words, get out of your comfort zone.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Because a comfort zone, it's a wonderful thing. We need it at times. It's a good place to rest, but it's not a good place to grow. It's not a good place to become. And it's really not a great place to live joyfully, because what's joyful about everything being exactly the way it's going to be? It gets boring after a while.
But isn't routine essential for growth?
To a point. But not forever. You don't want to do the same thing. I want you to try to imagine your life right now, the way it is right now. And then imagine that it's going to be just exactly that way 50 years from now.
Well, hopefully not, but that's the thing. I think I'm sorry, Teri. I would say let's exchange the word routine with maybe consistency. Because I imagine my life being different in 10, 15 years from now, but because I'm investing on certain paths. But the only way that I know that those paths will flourish and will lead me somewhere is because I'm consisting.
Right. Well, okay. So like I'm a podcast host and I have to consistently put out.
Yeah.
Right. That's true. So there is something about being consistent, but there's also something about trying new things, because let's say we'll just go back to the podcasting. You're a podcast host and you know that you have to put out a certain number of shows and that you have to do certain things. But I bet that what you're doing today is different than what you were doing when you first got started, because you learned new things and you were willing to step outside and try something a little new, a little different. And I think that's part of the problem, is people often stop doing that piece. They get comfortable where they are. I hear this a lot from people. Well, we've always done it this way. Well, that's a very scary sentence to me, because if everyone listened to that, we would still not have fire or the wheel. Right?
Isn't it in Japan that the government still use floppy disks?
Probably.
Yeah.
Because we've always done it this way, right? And so things like that concern me, because we've always done it that way is a terrible reason to continue doing something in a particular way. There's a story that makes me laugh. There's a woman, it's a story. I don't know that it ever had real roots. It may have, but she was a new bride. She was cooking a ham and she was cutting the bone off before she put it, like the end of the bone, before she put it into the oven. And her husband said, "Why are you cutting off the bone?" And she said, "I don't know. My mother always did it." So he asked her mother, why do you always cut off the bone? And she said, "Well, I don't know. My mother always did it." So he asked the grandmother, and she said, "Because my pan wasn't big enough to fit my ham in." Right. And so now we have two generations of people who are cutting their ham down, even though they don't need to, because they don't understand why it was being done. And I think that's the piece that I'm railing against. I think that we need to be willing to expand, explore, move beyond the bounds that we set for ourselves. And that doesn't get rid of consistency or goals, but it allows you to move with them and through them and advance them, and maybe even set new goals or bigger goals or better goals as you begin to move through.
Oh yeah, beautiful. And I know that all of those goals took you somewhere because you have a TED Talk. But before we touch on that, how about we go to our quick sponsor break? Okay, so give me 1 minute. We'll be right back, everyone. Parents, have you been searching for an app that's both fun and educational for your kids? I've got something exciting to share with you today. It's called FunTastic Plus. FunTastic Plus is a free app where education meets entertainment, designed specially for children ages 2 to 12. It's built by experts, completely ad-free and totally safe, so you can feel confident handing your phone or tablet to your little ones. Inside the app, kids will find a world of engaging content, their favorite cartoons, audiobooks and songs to spark imagination, educational games that make learning fun, and all of that to keep them entertained while supporting their development. FunTastic Plus is available on iPhones and iPads and even works offline, so whether you are on a road trip, flying, or just at home, your kids will always have something to enjoy. So if you're ready to give your kids a space that's both fun and educational, download now FunTastic Plus for free on the App Store. FunTastic Plus, a safe and ad-free educational platform for kids. Link on the description below. All right, and we're back. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, FunTastic Plus, for being our awesome channel sponsor. Go download now. FunTastic Plus is an amazing app. It just came out. Thank you once again. All right, Teri, how are you doing? We're back. So before we went in our quick short break, we were talking about your TED Talk, right?
Yeah. So the TED Talk actually came about because of the ride. Most of what has happened to me since 2020 came about because of this ride. at the end of it, I was able to say, I can do anything I put my mind to. I just rode across the United States on a tandem. What is it that I want to do? And one of those things was become an author. So I now have 3 published novels, my book about riding across the United States, and even a children's picture book. And the other thing that I wanted to accomplish was become a public speaker. And the first step with that was my TEDx talk. And the topic was about something that I learned as we rode across the United States. This was during 2020. So it's COVID summer when people were very much afraid of one another. And in the United States, it was very much a political unrest summer. There was a lot of just a lot of things going on. There were buildings that were burning and people that were protesting, and there was just a lot of stuff going on. And we were actually told by a lot of people, you shouldn't go, be very careful, you could get hurt, all of these kinds of things. And as it turns out, we rode the entire way across the United States. And what did we meet? But wonderful, amazing people. Wonderful, amazing people who were different socioeconomic statuses, who were different politically, who were different in their religions, who were different in their nationalities, who were different in their sexual orientations. Like, it didn't matter. We met people and we found that they were wonderful. And so my TED Talk kind of talks about that idea of how do we get to that space? How can we stop putting people into the other category? Where we fear them or we hate them, even worse than fearing them, or whatever, where we put them into this category where they're not like us. And now we have to somehow push them away or make them not as good as. And my belief is the way you do that is by getting to know people who are not like you. I get to know you. I find out about you. Once you and I have talked a little bit, any of our differences don't matter as much, because we have found a way to connect. So as soon as we find some connection, some human connection, then the things that aren't alike between us don't matter as much. If I meet 10 people who are not like me, who all fit in a certain category of people that I've labeled as other, and I find that all 10 of them are nice, and that I like all 10 of them, I have to start changing what I believe. Maybe in the beginning I can say, well, he's an exception to the rule. But after a while, I have to start saying, maybe my rule's wrong. Maybe people who belong in this category aren't all bad. And the way I did it with my talk was I said something that makes people laugh. I said, what if you just hate a blonde author? I said, and then you meet me and I'm a blonde author and you say, hey, I kind of like Teri. So do you call me an exception to the rule? Yeah, you might do that. You might say, well, I don't like blonde authors, but Teri's okay. But what if you meet 4 of me or 6 of me or 10 of me? Now you've met 15 blonde authors and you like all of them. You're eventually going to have to say, it's not blonde authors that I dislike. Maybe it was that one, and now I had a false impression about it, but it isn't about them being a blonde author. And I feel that way about any group, any kind of us and them thing that we put out there, is get to know people in that group that you're afraid of, that you've labeled as other. And you're going to find that there's more in common with them than there are things that can separate you. When we went across the United States, we met people from all walks of life. And what we found were wonderful, giving, caring people who got up in the morning, who wanted the same kinds of things out of life that I wanted. They wanted love. They wanted happiness. They wanted security. They wanted warmth and the same things. Maybe we would go about them differently, but they're so similar to me. And I think that if we can focus on our humanness, then the things that separate us just aren't as important.
Wow, it's beautiful. Have you watched this TV show called Lost?
Yes.
There were the others, but they were actually evil. The others, they were actually
right. Well, and the thing is I'm not saying that you have to absolutely love everybody. There are people in the world I've met that they just don't. But try not to then categorize them. And say, well, I didn't like that person, and that person was a particular political party, and therefore it must be the political party. No, it's just the person. It's do you know what I'm saying? It's okay. There are people out there that you're not going to like, and that's fine.
Yeah.
I just hate the idea that we then make these huge generalizations and say, because I had this experience this time, all people that fit that category are now in my other. And it would be so much better if we just learned to take people for who they are and make decisions person by person instead of group by group. And I mean, I see it in the United States right now all the time, where, if you're one political party, you're not allowed to like someone from the other political party. And that's just craziness.
Oh, no, you need to kill them. Just shoot them in the neck. What the fuck?
I know, like it's crazy to me. Like that, it doesn't even make sense. And most of the people that I know that are like my friend, the people in my circle feel the same way. Like, what in the world is going on? But unfortunately, this is becoming more and more common, where if you don't agree with someone, you now hate them. And if you hate them, that means that you can kill them, or that means you can hurt them, or that means that you can whatever you are doing. And what happened to humanity? To me, it's perfectly acceptable to say, I do not like what someone is saying. I do not believe what they were saying. I do not agree with what they are saying at all. And then you just walk away from that. I do not like it. Okay, well then don't be part of that. That's to me the way it should be. And it's the way it should be as we meet people too, instead of clumping them together and saying, well, because you voted this way or because you once said this thing that now you can't be my friend. That's just crazy.
Yes, for sure. But I think you're assuming a level of emotional maturity on people that don't exist. Like, it's not taught on schools. Like, they don't go to schools and teach kids how to like feel their feelings and recognize empathy and understand everyone.
Or even just have regular communication with regular debate, and to be able to think about why you believe something, be able to defend it, and then be able at the end of the day to walk away and say, it's okay. Not everyone's going to believe like I believe.
Yeah.
That's healthy to me, to be able to have a conversation with someone that you don't agree with and then shake hands and walk away and just agree to disagree. The world is made up of a lot of different people, and you're not going to find anyone in the world who believes exactly what you believe. And if that's what you're looking for, you're going to be alone, because no one is going to believe everything you believe. And so this idea that we label ourselves and we put ourselves into these groups, and then groups can't speak to one another. And, I'm an optimist, I guess. I really believe that we can go back to a space. There used to be a space where people could have an argument, disagree about something, and then still have dinner together and be okay with that.
So what do you think happened? Why this space is gone?
I think there's a lot of reasons. I think one of the things, and this isn't going to be super popular, but we have a 24-hour news cycle now. And with a 24-hour news cycle, you have one story that's big, and it replays 24 hours a day for 3 or 4 days. And in order to do that, they can't keep saying the same 5 minutes of story. They have to bring in people, and they have to talk about it, and they have to start debating it, and they have to pull out these little fine things and argue over it. Well, then you have people who have a different opinion who start arguing over it. So I think that's part of it. I think another thing is that we have all gotten very attached to our smartphones, and we've stopped learning how to communicate in full sentences. We do it in little tiny sound bites. And we also, when you communicate on a cell phone, so, you've got it and you're looking down at it like this, you're not seeing what your words are doing to someone else. If I am talking to you in person, looking you in the eyes, and I say something that is hurtful, unless I'm blind, I'm going to see that what I said was hurtful. It's going to show. But when you're on a smartphone, you can't see what your words are doing to someone else. And so it kind of takes out the empathy. It's not there because what you're doing is kind of like in private. Like I can say something really ugly in the privacy of my office, put it out into the world, and then I don't have to see what consequences it has. Whereas prior to the smartphone, if I said something ugly, when it made it out into the world, it's because I said it in front of someone and I did see what it did out in the world. And so I think those are part of the problem. I don't know that it's all of it, but I think it's some of it.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Yeah, it's Mark. You heard Mark Zuckerberg. It's your fault. It's all Zuckerberg's fault.
Well, and the thing is that I am not against technology. I think it's amazing. Like we wouldn't be able to do what we're doing right now without technology, right? Sure, yeah. And so it isn't the technology, it's being wise in how we use it.
I once heard, maybe it was on Joe Rogan, someone saying that how about we just shut off social media after 10 p.m. It's just off. Why not?
Why not?
I don't see that as a negative. How negative?
I think that as parents often limit their children's screen time. I mean, that's like the big thing. Like, oh, my child only has 2 hours of screen time a day, or my only child has one screen, or he has a certain number of hours a week and he has to earn them, or whatever that is, right? Well, I think as adults, we probably need to do that to ourselves as well.
Yeah,
we need to say, how much screen time are we having? And I don't mean for work. If you need to be on your computer at work, that's a different thing. But I mean doom scrolling through, your Instagram account and seeing all the things. I mean the mindless things that we do. I think, wouldn't that be so much better spent if we weren't doing that and we were having an actual face-to-face conversation with someone, or we were reading a good book in which we learned how to empathize with someone who was different than us, or we were doing literally anything else. There's so many things that we could be doing when instead we find ourselves attached to the screen. So I think, turning it off after 10 or limiting yourself to a certain number of hours of screen time a week or whatever would be a smart move.
Yeah, it's like a drug. It's addictive.
It is. Yeah. It is.
I started this past month. I started unplugging my Wi-Fi router from the wall socket after 10.
Yeah.
And because otherwise I just stay connected. I'm in bed with my notebook, just
yeah. And you don't go to sleep as well, and you don't, all of the things. It was interesting. So I live on the coast of North Carolina, and we will get some pretty good storms here, and sometimes those storms will knock out either the electricity for a while, but often, even if the electricity stays, the internet will go out for a day, 2, sometimes 3. Well, the first time that happened when I moved here and we lost the internet for 3 days, I thought, I didn't know what to do with myself. I couldn't, everything I went to do, it was like, oh, wait, that requires the internet. Oh, wait, that also requires the internet. And you soon recognize how attached you've become to technology that you can't do anything. You can't, like in my house, all of our television comes through streaming. So if there's no internet, there's no streaming. Okay, well, I read most of my books through my Kindle, and if there's no internet, then I can't get new books. And if there's all of these things, and you start to realize, you can't send an email, I can't do a podcast, I can't. And it's like, wow, I really need to get a new life. Like I need to figure out what I'm doing so that I'm not so dependent on whether or not I'm connected. Yeah, so I think that's great that you're cutting it off at 10. And I think that doing those kinds of things will help us start to make connections with people. And if we make connections with people, it's harder and harder and harder to hold on to group hate.
That's true, but I also think there's something primal about it. There's something about our brains that wanna group hate. I don't know what it is. I'm gonna give an example.
But you're right. It's been going on for generations, right? I mean, there's definitely been, hatred for certain groups, and it just changes which group we hate next.
But I think there's something about our genetics as humans. Genetics group rate. Let's look at it.
Well, there is. So what it is that for back in the days before we had all that we have, you needed a group to survive. You couldn't survive alone.
Yeah.
So you needed group, and there had to be us and them, because if there wasn't us and them, maybe all of us couldn't survive. Somebody had to be them. I'm just saying that in today's modern world, we can do a lot to prevent. We don't have to do it.
We're above that.
There doesn't have to be us and them. True, maybe it's a natural inclination, but there are a lot of natural inclinations that we have that we don't follow through with.
Yeah, that's true. I'm like, we
Right?
have a bunch of intrusive thoughts the whole day.
Yeah,
We all have it.
Right. I mean, I've been driving before and someone cut me off, and my first thought is, I want to swear at him, and I've even had the thought, excuse me for it, but gee, I should run them down. I should run them over. I should because they cut in front of me, right? But it's a flashing, fleeting thing. And do I do it? No, I would never do something like that. So can't we do that with this? Yes, it's a natural inclination to do us and them. Okay. Do we have to do it? No, we don't. So what am I going to do to fight against that? And if we all did it even just a little, I think you'd start seeing, one of the easiest things to do right now is to stop labeling yourself. Instead of saying I'm a Republican or I'm a Democrat or I'm a white middle class woman or I'm a whatever it is, right? Stop doing that. Because when you do that, that means that there's people like you and now there's people different than you. So if you stop labeling yourself and you just are, I'm Teri, and here's where I stand in different things, and you don't lean so hard on your label, then it allows you to open up a little more to people who may be different from you.
I had a teacher at university who would always complain how sometimes you're gonna subscribe to something and that you need to fill up a form and you need to put your age, your name, your address, blah blah, and they always ask your race, and you always come to class. That's an absurd. That's crazy. I'm human. I always try to write human, and they're not allowed. And I call them, and he always make a fuss about it. And as a teenager, like, gosh, just give your class, shut up. But now looking back, no. Looking back, it's like, no, he had a point. We are all human. We have different ethnicities. That's how you pronounce it, right? That's all. But the race is the same. It's only one. Now,
right. And I think that if we could start behaving that way, and I know that this is, very optimistic, and like you said, it requires people to be very mature. But let's hope that there are some people out there that are mature. Let's hope for that. And let's hope that they can look and say, this is crazy. Why are we doing this? Because as more and more people try to reach across these barriers, then the people who aren't as mature see it happening and they too will start doing it. It's what happens in the world. And so for those of you listening who are, mature enough to handle it, stop labeling yourself, stop labeling others, and start reaching across these differences and get to know people. Get to know them for who they are and not the label that you've given them.
Yeah, because maybe you met someone on a bad day. They were just in a bad mood. You met one personality. Like, we all have different personalities living inside of ourselves.
Absolutely.
We show different. I think even there's a concept of masking. I don't know. I'm not a psychologist, but
no, but there is. And I mean, I know I have different friends that I have from different places. They know me from different things, right? And I try to be me authentically across all of those, but I am sure that I act certain ways with certain friends and certain other ways with certain other friends, not even intentionally, but just as a way of kind of fitting into the group, as a way of making myself enough like everyone else that I can fit. Well, so when you meet someone, you don't know which of the many personalities did you get that day. And if you meet me on a really bad day, I love people. I love talking to people, but there are some days I don't. Right? There's some days where I'm peopled out, I'm done. And if you meet me on one of those days, you might make a decision about me that would not necessarily be true. And then I think the other thing that's interesting is sometimes you meet someone and you're right about what you think, but you're wrong about why. And once you understand their why, even if you still aren't enamored with them and think, well, this is going to be someone I'm going to be best friends with, you at least have a general understanding of how they got to the place that they're at. And that gives you some empathy. You know, you meet someone who's very closed off, who doesn't allow their emotions out, and you think, oh, I just don't know what to do with this person. And then you find out that they were horribly abused as a child, and that they have big trust issues, and that it changes now how you see what they've become.
Sure, but doesn't
Right?
change the fact that they're not
No,
someone
it
fun
might
to hang around.
Right. It might not change that, but does it not give you a little bit more empathy? Now, when you see the person, you might not think to yourself, I don't like them. You might think, not someone I care to hang around, but I sure do understand where they're coming from.
Yeah.
It's just a different, even if you can gain enough empathy to say, I still don't agree, but at least I can sort of see a point of view. That's so much better than walking around saying, I'm right, I'm right, I'm right, I'm right. Everyone else is wrong.
I guess my problem throughout life, I was always the opposite. Always trying to understand why maybe to a degree that was not healthy. So right now in my life, I don't know if you're familiar with Mel Robbins.
Yeah.
Oh man, I just love the let them theory, which is basically, if you're in doubts about someone or the way they're treating you, just let them act the way they're acting, because the way they're treating you is revealing who they are.
Yeah. It's about them, not about you.
This changed my life, Teddy.
Yeah.
I'm not joking.
Yeah, no, really. And I get what you're saying, that you can go too far. You can go too far with trying to excuse everyone and understand everyone. And, I don't know that that's healthy either, but I very much feel that being one way or the other is never healthy. There's always a middle ground. And so the middle ground in this would be to, like you said, allow people to be who they are and see it for what it is, but also be willing to explore at least a little bit. And especially in terms of things that are very different from what you've experienced in life. For instance, I've never experienced racism. I'm a white woman in a predominantly white community. I don't experience racism. So I don't understand it in a way that someone who's experienced it would understand it. I understand it, philosophically, like I've read about it, but I don't understand it in my heart, in my chest, right? So if I talk to someone, am I willing to listen to their experience despite the fact that it's significantly different from my own? And then once I've heard it, am I willing to allow it to be their experience? Or am I going to have to say, no, you didn't feel that. You didn't experience that. That couldn't have happened. And that's what happens a lot, is people say, oh, wait a minute, that's so different from me. I can't, I can't hear that. Right. And I'm saying, can we be open enough to say, that's a very different experience from my own? That's interesting. I wonder where that would lead me. Be a little more curious just about how people got to be the way they are and why they think what they think, and a little bit of curiosity and a little bit of allowing someone to express who they are and why without trying to stop them from being that will go a long way to making our society just a happier place.
Would you say that this would work in any type of relationship, or just family dynamics and romantic dynamics?
I think in most relationships, at least the curiosity part, the trying to understand someone a little bit more, in a close relationship like family or romantic, you want to do this even more. This is essential to let people see who you are and to learn who they are. In a neighborly kind of, like my neighbor, after a while, they're going to get tired if you keep digging into all of their business. So I don't mean that we should be like every person we meet, we need to dig down into the nitty gritty. But I still think that being open and curious and allowing for natural conversations to happen and not shutting people down when what they say doesn't agree with you. would be a wonderful way to just start opening ourselves up to other ideas and being willing to see that, there isn't always just one answer, that there's often multiple ways to get to where you want to go. Like driving to the grocery store. I can get there the main way, but I can also get there many, many other different back roads, and it will still get me to the grocery store, and to allow that to be okay.
Ah, that's beautiful. I don't know if my guests will take out something out of this podcast, but I'm sure I am taking a lot out. It's very, very, very good, Teri. I would like to ask you, so you are releasing this book right now about the trip, yeah?
Yeah, so it came out in February.
Came out already in February, okay.
Yeah.
Are you writing any new books, anything?
Yes,
next?
so I have 3 historical fiction novels out. And then, like I said, this book and a children's book. And I'm currently writing another fiction book. I have more things that I learned while on my ride. I have actually 10 more rules. And so I hope to, at some point, get another book about my ride out there. And then I have an idea for even some more children's picture books. The one that I wrote is called Little Lola in Her Big Dream. And the overall theme is keep dreaming, which happens to be one of my 10 little rules from my 10 little rules of a double-butted adventure. And so I'm seriously considering writing some more children's books that deal with some of these rules that I learned as an adult that I think would be wonderful for children to grasp as a child.
All right. Any new trips on the horizon?
I just got back from not cycling. My husband passed away in January, and so I'm not going to be able to do any more tandem cycling. But in this past August, I just went to New York for 3.5 weeks for a writer's retreat. And then I just found out that in July of next year, I'm going to get 3 weeks in Kavala, Greece. And I'm so excited that I'm going to go there. I'm going to get to be there to write. And while I'm there, I have decided I'm also going to maybe stay an extra a week to 2 weeks and try to see some other places that I've not seen. Maybe go into Turkey, go into Bulgaria, those kinds of places, see a few things I've not seen before. Yeah.
I highly recommend Turkey. It was one of the most beautiful places that I have ever been in my life.
Is it? Okay. Well, it's definitely, and I'm going to be in northern Greece, so close to these other places that my thought is as someone who lives in the United States, so far away from all of those places, that if I get that close, I might as well see if I can't take a tour and see something of some of the world that I haven't seen yet.
All right. I wish you a nice time. I'm sure you have a nice time.
I feel confident. Yeah.
Teri, thank you so much. What a pleasure. It was wonderful.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
All right. Thank you so much. Everyone, don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe. I wanna know what you thought about today's episode. Leave a comment below. And with that, see you next time. Bye-bye. Thank you so much for hanging out with us today. If it's your first time watching the show, make sure to like and subscribe. If you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, please rank the show 5 stars. This will ensure that the podcast is recommended to even more people and allow me to keep doing what I love. Check out now the BRUCAST store, Explore store, filled with awesome goodies from hoodies to t-shirts to mugs. We've got you covered. Stay in style with BRUCAST. Embrace the shock, set the trend. Buy now at brew-cast.com/store. Again, that's brew-cast.com/store. Link on the description below. Be a BRUCAST model and get free stuff. We'd love to see how you and your loved ones enjoy BRUCAST. Snap a picture of yourself, your family, your friends, or even your pets wearing BRUCAST merch, or watching an episode of the show and send it to us and become part of BRUCAST. We will feature you and your pictures at the end of every episode, just like the ones you're seeing on the screen right now. You can upload your pictures at brew-cast.com/contact or tag us on social media. Alright everyone, it has been a pleasure. Thank you so much and see you next time. Bye bye.